Brothers. We tend to see Nea get prioritized for his Ember. That might be what they're going for, of course. If it is a support Tiny, that's Tiny and AA as a support duo, which means you're kind of lacking some real hard lockdown. You still have that cold feet coming out. It can amp up your Tiny's damage. There's some synergy there. But I think when you've got these two kinds of supports on the pool, if they are supports, it can feel a bit weak. It just lacks it feels like control is sort of lacking from your supports.
Yeah. See how they do continue these drafts. Of course, John, I did just bring up the loot bet odds just quickly to see what was going on, and currently I believe it was SMG that are the heavy favorites in this matchup. In fact, I'll bring it up one more time just so I can remember the exact odds that I was seeing. But yeah, there you go. SMG $1.29 in comparison to the $3.40 of Lilgun. So about 3-to-1 odds. You feel like that's accurate, John? Do you feel like SMG has about 3 times the chance of beating out Lilgun here in this game 1? Like, not ignoring the draft, just teams itself.
It's a bit hard to say. Lilgun was playing in the upper div, but they didn't have the best of runs. SMG had a pretty decent run in lower div. I think Lilgun is still the team that can surprise you. They might not have looked too good in groups. Definitely not their best performance coming through there. And not quite up to the standard we saw from Season 1 of DPC. But they can still surprise you. I think they're a team that you can't sleep on. I think it's very tricky to say that SMG has the outright advantage, especially when Lilgun gets to start with a Brood. But even just disregarding draft, as you said, they 3-to-1's a bit much. I'd peg it maybe 1.5-to-1. I think it's a lot closer than you'd expect. Especially, again, you look at the group stage, Lilgun did manage to take one game off. So it did end up in a draw the last time these teams played. And I think that does mean that Lilgun has what it takes to kind of put a dent here on SMG.
Absolutely. For all the lovely viewers asking where John is, he's right here. This is johnxfire now. This is what he's turned into. He's had a week and a half, 2 weeks off, and as you can see, time isn't very good for johnxfire if he's not working. He does come up with some very, very unique ideas, I want to say, John. So I'm trying to make sure people are aware that this is indeed johnxfire that I'm talking to right now.
Yep.
And not just some random VTuber that they keep calling you John. So there you go.
Yeah, it is me. I've been isekai'd into the anime world. Sadly, I'm stuck here. I'm not in the anime. I'm in the next best thing. Still, I like that Lilgun did manage to go for the Grimstroke Ember. We're talking about the Grimstroke being a counter for the Brood. They can't pick it when you pick it up yourselves. And they take the Nea special away. So this is going to force Nea to play something else down mid. Of course, it also signals that we are more than likely seeing perhaps a safe lane Tiny for mid 1 with a Tidehunter pickup. It should still be the mid Tiny in the end. And Tiny versus Ember, that feels really nice for Ember. You do have burst potential there on your Tiny. You can burn through the Flame Guard quite nicely. But when it comes to mobility, once you hit level 6 on that Ember, it's going to be easier for the Ember to run around the map, maybe find some pickoffs, or even just clearing out some camps and shoving out lanes. Feels a lot nicer for the Ember, just having that added mobility. Tiny, we're going to have to look for that blink timing. Always important. Maybe even a Force Staff, as we saw that be really effective in that last series, is definitely a possibility. And Tidehunter on top with the Spirit Breaker here for SMG. It gives them some reach, some way to chase down the Brood. They go to TA in the end, so perhaps it's actually that core Tiny, and we're going to have the Nea TA down mid. And that matchup against Ember is also kind of fine. Your early refraction levels just get burned through by Flame Guard. At the same time, the Flame Guard is not going to block damage from the TA. So you can kind of trade in that lane. Once you get some Psyblade levels up, you can play with your range advantage, and the Ember's going to have to really play with a sleight of fist there to dodge out some of those hits.
Oh, it's a nice little Necrophos ending to the side of Lilgun's draft. So, very interesting drafts coming out from both sides. Lilgun, it looks like they might be relying on that Broodmother to really pump out the damage for this team. As you've got an Ember, you've got a Necrophos. You could kind of make the argument that maybe the Ember could also contribute quite a bit of damage here for this draft. But looking over to Team SMG, it does look a bit more stock standard with their own draft. And a bit more self-explanatory as to what's going on. Overall, John, I'll ask you the hard question before we do go into Game 1 between SMG and Lilgun. Who did come out with the better draft in your opinion?
It's a bit tough to say. I think the drafts are relatively even. Lilgun, their wild factor here is definitely that Brood and where they're laning it. Because with a Brood, Ember, and Necro, you could flex the Brood mid or safe with Sanctity on the Ember. Sanctity normally plays their 1. It could be the Brood mid. Brood mid against TA sounds pretty nice. You can just dip in and out of jungle. You can out-harass her once you burn through her refraction. She's a physical core, so the Bola is going to hurt her a lot. You can definitely trade nicely there as the Brood. You're going to have to watch yourself for mid 1. Also mid 1 on TA, which means maybe mid 1 takes the mid here as well. So we're seeing a little bit of flex coming through here for both sides, and that should be a really interesting first game to start the series with.
All right, fair enough. We'll go into a game number 1 between Team SMG and Lilgun. Of course, the loser of this, unfortunately, is going to have to leave the tournament, and winner will go on to the lower bracket round of 2. But we'll get into it. You can already see the voice lines getting started from either of these sides. See if which team can get that first game victory and have that advantage going into the second. I mean, I was personally leaning more towards the SMG draft myself, quite convincingly, but it could go either way. It is kind of hard to tell exactly what's going to happen. You never really know with a Broodmother. It's always one of those picks that makes you wonder what can be done with this hero throughout the game, and I suppose we're going to find out very soon.
It's one of those things, right? TA tied. I recall flashbacks to True Sight there. You know, so it can work out. I know there's a reason to be confident in this kind of pick. It's just down to execution from SMG and whether or not they can hold through the onslaught that 1-2-3 is going to be looking for in this game with the Brood. Like, the timings are really tight. There might not be enough space for that TA to build up if the map shrinks too fast.
They move in. It's going to be spotted on the Tiny, but nobody going to be able to punish there as they did not have the vision. That's going to be it. They'll take a bit of damage on the Tiny, and everyone else will just back off to get their respective bounty runes. I think it should just be a 2-for-2 trade. It's like Chance was just having a look to see if he could try and snipe a third, but it's not going to be the case. It'll be a 2-for-2, very even kind of start. Well, we'll go back to their respective lanes now and get this game started as mid 1. He'll make his way to the safe lane on that TA. I thought maybe there was a chance mid 1 would show up in the mid lane on this Templar Assassin, but it's going to be a safe lane TA this game around.
Yeah, they definitely flex it off. It's going to be interesting to see how much mid 1 can get done. He still has to deal with a Broodmother lane. It's still not fun. Once the Bolo's leveled up, you're going to be slowed down. Once the Insatiable Hunger is up and 1-2-3 is confident enough to run up against you, it won't feel great. So you're going to have to hold off. The one good thing here for SMG is that dual melee. They can at least harass out Hishki for
that's a nice impale though. Hishki is going to use it to run away, but for sure with this tri-lane going on from SMG, it's going to be a little bit challenging for the side of Lilgun to really make their presence known in this off lane. We'll see how they do make it work, because of course mid lane, you've got Sanctity there up against the Chats. Right now Sanctity is doing just fine, but you'll see the Tiny currently just taking over, which is, I suppose, pretty standard. It can be very challenging laning into the Tiny solo. Right now he hasn't even got a tree going for himself, but he does have it available, so he can go for the tree grab now and make it that much more difficult for Sanctity.
Yeah, it's still early on, so your Flame Guard's just going to pretty much melt to, well, pretty much melt once the Avalanche tosses up from the Chats. That should be Nea. I'm going to assume that's Nea. They haven't really been playing with a stand here on SMG. So we'll see if Sanctity can hold out. Even once you hit your level 2, level 3, level 4 spikes, but Flame Guard doesn't help you too much. You might want maybe just focusing on the Sleight of Fist to dodge the combination, have a better uptime on that spell to dodge the damage coming out from this Tiny. Overall, though, you're trading relatively evenly. Sanctity is lagging behind by pretty much a full creep wave. It's a good start for your Tiny. You just need to ensure that you get control of those water runes, maybe snatch a bounty if possible, and kind of just try to bully out this Ember. If you hit level 5 fast here in the Chats, you can definitely burn down that Ember before anything else can happen.
Fair enough. Of course, the last lane we haven't really spoken about yet. KP will be there on the solo, tied up against Marvel on that Necrophosin. Of course, you've got Ace there on the Grimstroke, but they've left KP all by himself on this Tidehunter. This is nothing too unusual for KP, though. He is pretty used to solo laning himself in the offlane, I'm sure. In all fairness, it's not that difficult of a lane either. It's not like the Necrophos is really going to be able to kill KP off, maybe up until that level 6 mark, and KP, obviously for him, he's just going to try and secure some CS for himself. He's not too stressed about trying to get harassed out onto the side of Lilgun in this offlane.
Yeah, he's still going to be able to hit his timings here on the Tide. It's a Necrophos lane. I don't think even if you brought an additional support, you'd really want to fully commit with a Tide, and just want to play it slow, play to your strength. So Marvel's going to have a pretty decent ride up here. KP's not going to lag too far behind. What SMG needs to make happen is really work this tri lane well. Like, they are definitely making it a bit tricky for Hishki to have some impact. Has managed to at least scout the pulse, but once you commit these two supports, it's easy to find that kill.
Hishi, he's going to try and spike Carapace his way out of this. A nice impale out again. Onto two heroes and Arfu. He's going to try and chase him down a little bit. Mid one, meanwhile, getting very low, but looks like he is going to be able to survive. You know what? I do like... In fact, never mind that for a second, because he's just being chased down, but I do like what this Nyx Assassin is doing. Now, mind you, he has given First Blood away to the mid-tiny, so maybe it's not that great, but the fact that he has split up the tri-lane of SMG at that top lane is going to be very effective for the Broodmother. You did see mid one taking quite a bit of damage out. There's now mid lane. They'll try and go in onto Sanctity. Arfu hoping for a lucky bash, but doesn't quite get it. Charges back in, but Sleight of Fist is going to be able to juke it out, and at the very least, they are going to be able to just take both water runes away from this Ember.
Thanks, guys.
Sanctity, he's going to be left with one bottle charge left, and that's not going to feel too great for this Ember Spirit.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure being applied onto Sanctity. He's not quite hitting the spikes he'd want. He still has a decent amount of EXP though, so I think that's where the chance is not going to feel great. He's at level 5 now on the Ember. He's at that point where he also invests on that Sleight Fist, so he is going for that play to dodge out the combos. That should allow him to hold that lane a lot better. Overall, SMG slightly ahead, less than 1k up. They are having a really good time here, especially with mid one, just overtaking that lane, getting all the farm he'd want. 1-3 has been able to drop one, but...
And 3 heroes up toward that top side, mid one. I don't think he survives this. He'll try though. Refraction is going to make it in time. Still trying to turn around. He does get 1, 2, 3 before he does drop. And so overall, really not too bad for mid one. Because you got the XP, you got the gold. And for SMG, I think you've got to be happy.
Yeah, it's really worthwhile. You're putting a dent on this Brood. You're forcing the Brood to have to call a tri-lane to even just find that pressure. Normally we see Broods just do this by themselves, but 1-3 we're not Lilgun were not ready to really focus on this lane, and they're working it really nicely in SMG. So they're holding out, they're forcing more resources allocated to the Brood. They're starting to isolate Marvel. Marvel's still at level 5. They were starting to apply some pressure. There was a bit of a charge from Afu, but they don't fully commit. Down mid though.
Yeah.
Just some pressure on the chat.
Gonna be alright. Charge. He's gonna be out. Hishki. He's gonna spot out that charge, but the Sleight of Fist was committed by Sanctity. Won't matter though. Arfu now gonna be the one to be chased down as Sanctity just kind of remnants right into the Spirit Breaker. Not really gonna be able to finish him off, but does get a bit of a warning shot out. It's like both teams just gonna back off. Not trying to pressure too much yet. Meanwhile, KB being a spot of danger. Hishki, he does have the impale up. Just choosing not to throw it out yet, but then does get it eventually. KB now with the Hood of Defiance is just going to try and run away from this. Marvel, he has the Reaper's side. He will commit it. It's still not going to be enough, but eventually with these body blocks, they have the damage. KB is still running away. Hishki is trying to chase him down and eventually does get him. But in the meantime, they will lose Ace. Arfu, he will drop for their trouble. And now Rodji, also going to be taken out. 1, 2, 3, he'll get a double kill. And so all across the map, a really good set of trades happening here for Lilgun. Because now X123 is going to keep the chase up on mid one and just try to harass him back out in the mid lane as well. Nia ends up dropping Sanctity, able to set up a kill for himself. Already looking pretty bad news as mid one. Getting caught by the spider. Does end up getting punished, and well, now that X123's level 7, it's very easy to get the damage output out as he chases down Rogi. Arfu's going to try and charge in to help out. But you've already lost mid one, and that's never going to be a great feeling.
And they make so much space across the map. That allows Lilgun to just shove into mid, and the chat's TP's in, but their tower's already under pressure, and they might chase for this kill.
I mean, why the hell not? Inkswell is not on the right target, though. I believe they were meant to Inkswell Sanctity to make sure he could just remnant in and get the guaranteed stun, but that wasn't the case. Now charge in, but it's actually going to be on the backside. They'll try to go on a History. He gets the Spike Carapace off, but the Avalanche toss is going to be more than enough. So they do have the damage to at least get the Nyx Assassin. But things are still looking very rough for SMG here, and they're just going to try and keep securing their own farm as mid one. He gets a massive sack of spiders up at that top side, and that's one way to do it, right? If you can get the right angle on the side blades, clear out the spiderlings, you can really start to escalate.
Yep, really one way to kind of block off the Brood. You always run the risk of feeding a lot of gold towards mid one. Mind you, those spiderlings aren't worth that much, so the CS score of mid one's kind of inflated for his net worth. He's not really that far ahead in terms of gold, and it's not quite the point you want. Down mid, though. Yeah,
charge out. He's got the Inkswell, though, and Sanctity is around to help, so Arfu now is going to be the one in danger. They will keep chasing them down, but the Reaper Scythe down from Marvel, just to make sure Arfu does die as now. They've caught out the Tiny. Chains are there. He will drop Rogi. He's not safe either. Sanctity is just not done. He'll get another kill, and now KB. He is completely out of mana. He might be able to walk out of this, but they are going to get some damage off before he does. KP's only really just here to make sure that tier 1 tower does remain standing, as you never really want to lose that when you've got a TA on your side. This mid one will definitely want access to his own jungle and triangle, but it's not going to be too easy of a job here for KP, as Sanctity does seem pretty committed.
Yeah, I think even not just the mid one dropping, but the top dropping this at this point for 1-2-3 means that mid one can't even farm the top tower. You don't even
of
mid one tower gone.
Dust is there. X123 just going for it solo. He's not going to have enough. Now the TP's in. A nice avalanche toss will take care of the spiderlings as they toss back the Broodmother. X123 is going to try and run his way out of this, and he will get out of range of the cold feed. They won't be able to quite kill him. All they really got were the spiderlings, but it's kind of like you mentioned, that the value of the spiderlings isn't really that high. And while that was happening, mid lane, KB is not going to be killed off yet, but Sanctity will go after the AA instead, and they will be able to secure the killers. Now Sanctity is going to be chased down by mid one, but he does have one remnant available, and he has an Invis rune on top. So he's just fine. Now Arfu topside is actually going to be able to get X123. He almost drops, but with Neo around, they'll get the kill, and well, it's back into the mid lane where mid one now might be chased up. Here's G. Unable to land the impale, so mid one is going to be just fine. But they are certainly trying to find an angle onto this TA, and well, for now, mid one, he is still able to secure the farm up regardless of the pressure being applied.
Yeah, it's still looking pretty good for mid one, considering that he doesn't have a lane up top to play in. Doesn't really have the jungle to play with as well. He's still number 3 net worth, top of his team. So the priority is definitely going out to the right hero. And they've done a pretty good job of stalling out this mid-tower push. Like, it's still standing at 11.5 minutes. They've been trying for the past 2-3 minutes to take it out. Ishkido has the Vendetta up, so he can stalk mid one around now.
Just waiting for the right moment. Now, got the AA around. Rogi had his smoke broken. They must know History's here. Nobody really revealing the fact that they know yet, though. It's all just back into the mid lane where you've got KP still just standing his ground. Lilgun still trying to posture. KP is going to move in for the power room, but it was not spawning down to the bot side. It was actually top, and Nia did end up getting it with the bottle there on the illusion rune. Lilgun gonna smoke up again. to the Dire jungle now, though. Have a look around for the Tiny.
Radiant's bottom tower is under
He's about to show himself on the creep wave now. In fact, they've got X123 around to boot. So there should be a guaranteed kill out onto Nia. As History's just looking for that impale off, but they've got the Inkswell instead, and that should be more than enough to lock him down. And there's your Reaper Scythe out. Just making it a very difficult kind of game. For Nia as mid one, he got the bottom tier 1, but meanwhile Sanctity, he's getting the mid tier 1 tower. And KP, he does manage to defend it, but he's pretty much going to have to deny it off. And now History's going to show up with the Impale out and the Inkswell follow up with the Silence. They might just have enough. Marvel, he gets the Death Pulse out. KP's going to try and run, but it will not be enough. They'll continue the chase as Sanctity now right onto Rogi. They will get another. The only bright side was that mid one was able to kill off the Broodmother in the meantime. But that's about all they got.
Yeah, it's not the most worthwhile trade. I mean, it's still a nice kill for mid one. You're still building up farm. The Dragonlance is up. Desolator next, it looks like, although.
Chains out. Arfu going to try and charge himself out of this. And Silence is there from Ace to cancel that charge off. KB is going to TP in though. And they know he's still got the Ravage on the Tide. So they can't really afford to fight into that tier 2 mid tower quite yet. Have to let Arfu go as you see Lilgun just immediately rotating up towards the top side of the map, trying to spot out mid one. They may just find him. History is going to break the gap. Inkswell is there to speed him up, and mid one is going to get stunned up. He got the melt off in time, but it's not going to matter. They have the dust up. And this is really great play out from Lilgun. Just how fast they're rotating across the map and just applying that pressure onto every core on SMG. You just love to see it.
They're playing to their strengths quite nicely. Afu.
Trouble, Soulbind gonna lock them down. Stroke of Fate not quite gonna land, so they should be able to get themselves out. You had KP around anyway on the Tidehunter, just in case they needed the Ravage. But my goodness, I mean, it's just so much pressure. SMG might be a little bit more pressure coming now as they are staring them down. Up at that top lane, they've got the stun out. Looks like they have caught out Arfu, and it's gonna be another. KB, he's around to try and defend, but it's going to be quite challenging. Even as the Tide, he's looking for that nice anchor smash, but now he's going to be caught out. Sanctity right behind him, and there's your Reaper Scythe. It's just too much pressure. Way too much pressure from Lilgun.
You have to appreciate how much Lilgun's also kind of spacing themselves out, always making SMG think twice about where everyone's at, because they've got such mobile heroes in Yember, and of course the Vendetta on Nyx that you can't just fully commit the Ravage. You don't know how many heroes you're actually catching, so can't play around his timing from KP. And it's been 15 minutes. He has not used it once, not even for a value pickoff. You're losing a lot of the potential of that Tide when you don't manage to use that spell, and you need to find a big fight somewhere.
They are. Avalanche Toss is going to catch out History, and now they might be able to turn. Ace, he's going to be targeted. Mid one going to just try and blow him up, and they'll get him. In fact, now they found Marvel. Sanctity, he's going to just try and run his way out and should be fine, but I can't say the same for Marvel. In fact, never mind. Mid one now, he's going to be focused. Sanctity, he came back in with X123. They'll get the TA kill. They'll find Rogi on the AA. They'll look for more. Arfu, he's going to be able to get out, but I can't say the same for KP either, as the chains, they don't quite land, but the chase will continue. X123 trying to close the gap. He will get the bowler off, but it is not going to be enough. So KP, he'll get himself out, but they found the big one in the TA. And KP, he's not safe yet either. Sanctity just keeps moving forward. Another remnant out. Chains, Arfu going to be caught. He does have a charge away, but he charged right into the Necrophosa Marvel. He's going to be able to get the kill. It's just a complete mess for the side of SMG, and Lilgun, they've just got to keep up the good work.
Yeah, they just need to keep playing quick, deny any opportunity for farm, although the chats...
Oh, Ice Blast did not connect History. He's going to be just fine as now they're going to chase down the Tiny. Inkswell going to land as well on Sanctity, and, well, this is your mid-Tiny. Not really panning out the way you'd like it, I'm sure. And SMG, they are still desperate. Ace, They'll drop a sentry, they'll get the Grimstroke.
Yeah, it's not a big kill for SMG to take. At this point, you'll just take what you can get, but they're losing a lot of map space. Like 1, 2, 3 is just free to farm, working onto the Aether Lens, and going forward, the Broodmurder is getting really hard to control. You have this really good farm in mid 1. It's only about 1.6k above the Brood. It's just not enough. Like you need a BKB now, and mid 1 is queuing that up with the Desolator finished. But even after that, you'll still want your Blink, you'll want the Daedalus next, perhaps, just for more damage output. It's going to take a while for that to build up. You can see Lilgun, they don't rest, they just smoke up and go for more.
Oh, mid 1 don't show up right now, so it could be very dangerous. But they're going to go for the charge. They're trying to blow up the Ember, and they're going to be able to get him. Sanctity, he's gone, but now the Soulbind's out. Here's She trying to go in for a nice Impale. Does only catch out one. KP from the sideline's going to move in with a big Ravage out. It does connect onto 2 heroes. Fu is going to drop at Marvel. He'll keep moving forward onto mid 1 with the Spirit Vessel out. They might just have enough. The chat's going to try and help with an Avalanche Toss, but it's not going to be enough. It's just not enough damage. Now they'll surround. They'll get the Tiny as well. SMG are just falling apart in this game 1 as KP. He gets a massive stack of spiders, but doesn't matter. They'll just keep chasing him down, and eventually they'll get the big tide. Marvel to take another kill off the map, and it's going to be onto the tier 2 mid tower they go. What do you do, John, if you're SMG? It feels like this draft, it's not meant to go into the late game. And I'm starting to get a little bit concerned that mid 1 might not be able to scale well with the way this game's going.
He just doesn't have enough space. And that was the big issue with, they protect their mid tower, but they lost their top tier 1 way too early. And that just means that the jungle's so exposed. It's a Broodmother. She doesn't need the mid tower to be gone. She just needs 1 tower gone, and she can fully invade with webs. They need to find a way to give mid 1 some more space to farm. They need to work around with this Blink on the chats and play around with the Ravage and KP. We just haven't seen enough of that big combo, Ravage plus Ice Blast coming through and trying to burst them down to Tiny. It's just not lining up, and they need to coordinate a bit better as a team there in SMG's end to get that done.
Mid 1 goes form, already popped. They want to move in, but a nice Ice Blast, but the Impale is also there with the double Reaper sign. Oh, they just blow him up. It's not even close right now as the chance he's going to try and run, but the chains are out from Sanctity. He locks him down. The Tiny is going to try and run, but the Inkswell's going to be there. They even found Rogi and KB. He stuck around a bit longer. Chains aren't going to connect in all fairness, so KB is still safe, but they might just dive the tier 3 tower. I mean, why the hell not?
Oh, goodness.
It's just such a one-sided affair here.
It is. And the insane thing is that this is not the widest network gap we've seen. 10k isn't that much relative to other games we've seen at 20.5 minutes. It's just that it's just not enough space. And the level spikes you get in these heroes are just much more impactful compared to SMG. They're just so level deprived, farm deprived as well. The high ground's happening now. You do have Ravage.
Boy.
They could try deep.
They've caught the Tiny again, John. Sanctity, he's been so on target with his initiations on this Ember. And with all these Spirelings around, it's not going to take much work to get this tier 3 tower. In fact, they could probably keep going. They're all so healthy. KB, he has the Ravage, but he has to be careful not to get caught out. They need the Ravage for the fight. There's no choice. Impel's out. The Kraken Shell going to interrupt as now the chains are there. Marvel, he'll start moving in. KP already quite low, but an Ice Blast out onto the Necrophos with the Ravage. Is it going to matter? The Nether Strike out onto the Necrophos as well, but now the Remnant in. They found mid 1 and KP already. There's no buybacks left. Fu, he will be the third to drop. How do you fight this? They might go into the tier 4 towers if you're not lucky. Another one, Rogi. He's gone. GG.
This is you can't fault them there. It was a tough game to bounce back from for the side of SMG. They just dropped way too much early on, and it just kind of piled on. Like they didn't have enough room to get farm on all the heroes that did need that farm, and they went really strange. Like they saw the Broodmother opening. They still opted for the tiny pickup with the AA. They did not opt for the Grimstroke, so Lilgun took the Grimstroke on their end, which meant they've got the best counter hero to the Brood, arguably on the support role, on their side. So they had no worry about 1-2-3's side. They went for the Spirit Breaker as well in SMG, which has not been doing well. Like, Spirit Breaker is just a really good support right now. It takes a very specific lineup to make it work, and it just kind of fell flat. So I think some of this game is down to drafting error and a little bit of execution. We're going to have to see SMG really wipe the slate clean and see if they manage to read some of those cheese picks in Game 2 from Lilgun.
Certainly a very rough start to the day for SMG, and now they're one game away from being kicked out of the Lootbet Pro Series Season 6. Definitely not a great start, but I'm sure they're able to try and turn this around and force to a game number 3. We'll find out, though, because Lilgun, they're one game away from proceeding through to the round 2 of the lower bracket. And for now, it is MLPDotA and johnxfire, and we are going to head off to a very short break, but right after that short break, we'll be back with game number 2's draft. We'll see you then.